Today I'm going to teach you how to make kale chips. If you want something crunchy but you don't want to waste all the calories, go for kale chips. What you're going to need to get started is organic kale. You always want to buy organic because then you don't get the pesticides soaking into something that you're going to be eating. And it's only about between $1 and $2 a bunch, which is a lot less expensive than if you bought kale chips. They'd be about $6, $7, even $8 for just a small bag. Some sort of seasoning. I'm using an organic green onion dip mix because it's already got all the seasoning in it, just the right amount of salt, not too much, and then extra virgin cold pressed olive oil. So to get started, you want to wash and dry your kale really well. So I washed it last night and let it sit with the fan on it or in the fridge just to make sure that a lot of the water is out of the little ridges. After you've got your kale washed and dried, you want to remove the ribs. You don't want to eat this part. It's like really fibrous and not fun to chew on. So we're just going to pull the kale right off. Once you get a little bit off the bottom, you can even pinch the top and pinch the rib and it'll pull right out. Obviously you don't want to eat a chip this big, so at that point you can pull it into different sized pieces. Kale is great for you. Everyone's a little bit scared of it because it's so green, but it is full of fiber, full of minerals and vitamins. 1 cup of kale, which would probably be about how much you would be eating in kale chips, has all the vitamin C that you need for the day. So if you're trying to stay healthy while you're out on the road, this is a great snack. So once you've got your clean, destemmed kale, we're going to add the seasoning. You're going to take 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. And you want to massage it into the kale. It starts to break it down and help it wilt a little bit, so make sure that you really get it into each piece. Plus it feels good on your fingers and moisturizes. I know, not that many people probably really think about that, but healthy hands help you drive better. I'm going to wash the olive oil off my hands and then we'll put the seasoning on. Alright, again I'm using a green onion mix, whatever you like. You can use garlic powder, salt, pepper, paprika, curry powder is a fun one. Whatever you're in the mood for. I'm going to put about 2 tablespoons of this mix on the kale and then just give it a good stir again so all the pieces that have the olive oil on them get evenly coated. Again, it's a little bit messy, but it's fun and quick. Alright, so I have my oven preheated to 270. The lower the temperature, the more of the minerals and vitamins are preserved instead of just cooking all the benefits right out of it. So I try to keep it under 300. If you're really in a time crunch, you could pop it up a little bit higher. You just want to watch them and make sure that they don't get too brown. I like to use mini muffin tins. It's a little unconventional, but it helps the airflow underneath the kale. As it starts to sweat, it can make some of the other pieces soggy or not crisp up quite as quickly. So rather than using a flat pan, I'll either use this side or the front side of a mini muffin tin. So you've got your kale. You just want to lay them out evenly, not too close together again, because as they sweat, you don't want them to take too long cooking. And this is probably the most tedious part. I usually just dump it on and then I regret it later. So it's worth spending a couple minutes making sure that they are out evenly. First time I ever tried kale, I fell in love with it, but before that, I thought that it would just be so gross and way too healthy. But it has a little bit of a bitter flavor to it, but it's not too overpowering. So I started juicing it, throwing it in a saute pan. You don't have to cook it. A lot of people choose to, just because it does help it break down, but just a little bit of olive oil and lemon juice even helps it break down enough to where you can have it as a salad. It's a super easy, healthy option to keep in the fridge at all times. Especially if you're working towards getting a lot more fiber in your diet, as opposed to taking something out of a can that somebody made into fiber for you. This is straight out of the earth goodness fiber for you. I tell people to try and get about 25 to 30 grams of fiber in their diet every day. Healthy digestion makes for happy campers. All right, so that's good. I have a little bit extra, so I could always make another pan. But let's go ahead and pop it in the oven. Again, we're at 270 degrees Fahrenheit, and we're going to pop it in here in the middle shelf. And set the timer for 10 minutes, because at that point we're going to check it. All right, be back with you in a second. Okay, so you can see they're not even remotely close to being done, but they're starting to wilt, which is a good sign. They might be a little bit crispy on the edge. At this point, I'll usually kind of move them around so that enough air gets underneath. Just be careful, it's hot. Everything I needed to know about cooking I learned from screwing it up usually. All right, so same thing, we're just gonna move them around a little bit. This one's getting a little bit more done. Just keep an eye on them. All right, and we'll set that timer again for 10 more minutes. All right, so the first time that I ever made kale chips, this is kind of a funny story. I impatiently cranked up the heat to about 400, and that wasn't enough, so I put it on broil. And I just walked away from them and I completely forgot about it. So I always set my timer now. But at the time, I didn't think about it. I came back like an hour later and it smelled so bad. And I opened the oven and they were just little crunchy charcoal pieces. And I pulled it out and I picked one up and it just fell apart like dust. It was such a waste. So always set your timer. Hindsight's 20/20. When you're getting ready to package your kale chips, I always set them on a paper towel. It just helps absorb any of the moisture, because the whole point of the snack is you want that crunchy fix, a healthy crunchy fix. So I'll set them on the paper towel, and then when I'm ready to bag them up, either in a Tupperware container or a plastic bag, I'll throw a paper towel in there as well. You never want to actually close your container, because again, if they're warm at all, they'll sweat and just take all of the crunchiness out of them. So throw them in the bag, leave it open maybe a couple inches just so enough air can come in and out, and then you're ready to go. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you made this recipe and you loved it, or even if you didn't, go ahead and comment right below and let me know what you think. Always like, share it with your friends, and we'll see you back here next time. In the kitchen to on the road with Lauren Ray, only on CFFNation.com.